Hey guys, and welcome back to Monster Hunter Rise. Today we're talking about the best Palico and Palamute armors and weapon that you can use currently in the update 2.0. Alright, so here I am at the Buddy Smithy. From here we're going to go to the Forge Palico equipment. So we're going to look at the Palicos first. So now Palicos have a variety of different things that can do besides actually just dealing out damage. So looking at their weapons first, let's look at some of the better weapons. So if we look at some weapons for Palicos, the first major weapon that you might want to try that a lot of people might be sleeping on is the Cataclysm Knell. This weapon right over here that you unlock at the shrine in the Buddy area. In case you don't know where that is, this is by this shrine right over here. When you unlock it, you will unlock those Buddy designs to make those weapons in the Buddy Smith. Now, the reason why I say this weapon is a good one is because it has a 20 sleep element attached to it. So you can put monsters to sleep regularly throughout your fight just by having your Palico hit things. And if you have one of their moves where they can increase their status effect damage or the element damage, you're basically going to make the monsters sleep just by using your Palico hit them over and over and over again. And you can do this with any type of Palico that you choose to have. Now, the attack for this is 160. It isn't the highest amount out there, but it is definitely a reasonable one for the sleep. If you consider some of these weapons don't really make a huge difference between the damages that your Palicos can actually output. It's very minimal in that sense. So from here downwards, you can either choose weapons that fit specific elements like the Feline Sinister S, which has the Blast, the Feline Goss, which has the Ice element, but some of these also have a reduction in their affinity so they won't crit that much. We have the Feline Elmudron S, which is a 25 to water element. If you're looking for something with very high damage but minus 20% affinity, so critical hits aren't really going to happen a lot with this one, I don't actually recommend it, but it is out there if you're looking for something non-element based. The Diablo's Hammer kind of does the same thing, but at a lesser extent. So minus 10% affinity, but only 190 attack. Then we have the Fire Element from Rachna's Tome, Thunder from the Puppeteer weapon from Rajang, and then we have one with 0% affinity with 180 attack damage. So if you're aiming for general attack damage and no element from your weapons for your Palico, you can go with the Rampage Bokken S weapon, this kind of little sword knife thingy, which is a decent one to kind of fit most monsters that you're going to be facing. And then we have Kushala's Wand, which has a very high attack of 190 and the element for ice at 15. Now this, I think, is a really good weapon. That element comes in handy quite a lot, and the attack of 190 is really high and justifies having this kind of weapon for any enemies or monsters that are weak to that 15 ice element. We also have a poison weapon for the Feline Genie, which is the weapon from Chameleos. We also have another blast weapon here, the Kaiser Mace, which is from Teostra. Now this one has a lower melee ability attacks, but has a higher ranged ability attacks compared to the Magnamalo one. You can also go for the Basil Juice one, which has a high melee attack, but a low range attack with the blast element. And of course, if you're looking for Dragon type, you're going to go for the Ibushi weapon. So in general, the weapon that you choose actually depends on the monsters that you're fighting. If you want something all-rounder and you don't really care, I honestly recommend going for Kushala's Wand or maybe the Rampage S. The Rampage S weapon actually fits pretty much everything because it has a default attack of 180 for ranged and melee attacks and no elements attached. So it should do well against everything that you fight, but it won't be the best option for every unique monster you fight. Though I do understand that it can be quite annoying to try equip all different weapons on your Palicos and Palamutes to fit each situation that you're in. So before the update, the best armor for the Palicos was the Narwa armor, which has a defense of 130 for each slot, and obviously you have your resistances as well. Honestly, I don't feel like this plays a huge major role. I hardly ever actually see my Palicos dying that much. I tend to just give them the highest defense rather than the best resistance per each monster. You can actually go the resistance route if you want to, but honestly, it's not that troublesome. But there are three types of armors that you can focus on that have really high defense. Now, this is the Kushala armor, which actually looks pretty damn cool for the Palicos, I will say. This one has a defense of 148, and you can see all the different resistances there as well on the right-hand side. You can also use the Chameleos armor set, which is really good in defense. Same exact amount, different resistance types. And if we go to the Teostra set here, you can see same exact defense, different resistance types. So you can swap between these three different armor sets and use whatever weapon you want that fits your Palico's playstyle, I guess. But you'll get your best defense from these armor sets right over here. So that's Kushala, Chameleos, and Teostra. But if you're still using Palamutes, it has the exact same thing with the weapons, the exact same kind of thing with the elements. The weapons basically work the exact same way. Honestly, it's just for the Palamutes. I would obviously recommend the K9 Rampage S weapon, which has a 100 attack, 100 attack for both melee and ranged, so you're good there with 0% affinity, so it's not a downgrade or anything. So the All Mother Sword S here is actually a really good one to pick, or you can go for something like Diora's Scythe, which has the highest attack with a element attached as well. So that's 15 element for ice and 190 both ranged and melee attacks. Other than that, you can pick a weapon based on the elements, as we spoke about with the Palamutes. The same exact thing applies for these ones here for the Palamute. Funny enough, the armor works the exact same way. So the Kushala, Chameleos, and Teostra armor for your Palamutes are your best ones, and obviously you pick these based on the different resistances that you're trying to get. Now, Basil Juice doesn't actually have high defense, so he's not really an option here. You're really just sticking with Teostra, Chameleos, and Kushala Daora for your armors for your Palicos and your Palamutes, and any weapon or the Rampage weapon for either of those two buddies. And let's not forget that the Palamutes have gear, so if we go to the buddy board where you can find them all around your village, go to Palamute gear, and you can have 2 slots to select from various different things that your Palamute can have equipped. If you prefer to have your Palamute do its own damage, I recommend picking things like the double-bladed chain, the guarding parasol, or the large shuriken. If you're looking for a Palamute that can do some healing or defending, you can give it the Guarding Parasol, or you can give it a Healing Scroll, which only heals the canines in the field. But if you give them a Heal Blade Scroll, this will allow it to, every single time it attacks, it can heal everybody in its vicinity, but it only lasts for a certain time and only activates certain times. But you'll see it when it does activate because it does like a green scroll in the air and everything. If you prefer to do your own damage and you want the Palamute to help you with that, then the Stowed Core Fang is really good because it will detach and it will chomp on autopilot, and wherever it attacks and it leaves a bite, you can actually attack that spot directly on the monster to deal more damage to it. So this is quite a fun one to have. I enjoy it. You can also use the various amounts of scrolls to give it like a buff so that it can increase its attack and chance to stagger the enemies. You can increase the critical chance, the affinity from each combo it does. You can also increase the attack speed. There's also some defensive buffs that allow you to get staggered less, or at least the Palamute gets staggered less from the monsters. One that can lure the monsters. One that hides the Palamute's presence, so the Palamute can attack the monster without the monster actually focusing on the Palamute at all. And then you get this weapon over here that makes it so that it can throw like explosive weapons like kunai. I don't entirely actually know how this one works, but you can try it if you do want it. I prefer to use the Stowed Core Fang and the dual-bladed chain, which can spin and land multiple hits so that it has a lot more damage output, so you don't actually have to focus on it too much. Now, it's relatively straightforward and simple, but if you were looking for some help, I hope this was helpful and that you managed to get the best damage out of your buddies that you need. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.